This winter has certainly been, it will, well, the last year has really been a bit of a wild ride. And so I asked our legislative team to do some summarizing of where we're at and where they think we might be going in terms of healthcare issues. And I'm hoping they'll reflect on both the short session and anything from the long session that only ended 7 or 8 months ago that they think is important. But speaking initially will be Bruce Thompson and Karen Christensen, and let's hear from them.
All right, start right off. Thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. There's quite a bit of material to cover, and we're probably going to leave out some of the bills, just for trying to keep it within the time limits of the meeting. But I'd like to start with giving you an update on important legislation that was passed in the full session, which ended at the end of June last year. And that is, I think as you all know, the legislature passed a bill to establish a universal care governance board. And that board is tasked with the project of reporting a specific plan to the legislature in September of 2025 that outlines the benefits that will be included within the plan, the cost of the plan, and how it is to be implemented. So this is a really important step for Oregon, kind of a logical next step after both the report of the Universal Task Force and also the passage of the constitutional amendment. So the governance board members have now been appointed and the executive director has been hired. Her name is Morgan Cowling. And the first meeting, this is really exciting because it's not publicized on a website yet. The first meeting for the board has been set for April 16th from 1 to 3 p.m. Thereafter, they're going to be meeting on the third Thursday of every month from 9 to 12. And we will try to provide information on our website when the public notice of the meeting is given. I spoke with Warren George today, who is one of the members of the task force, or the governance board, I'm sorry. And he indicated that the first meeting will be rather organizational, but they're really looking forward to getting into the meat of the matter. And there will be a dedicated web page on the Department of Financial Services website for the state. The meetings, we haven't decided yet whether the board will physically get together in person, but they will have a Zoom component. So as members of the public, we can watch their meetings and they'll let us know the degree to which we can participate in them. So that was the news from the last legislative session carrying forward to today. One of the governor's big priorities was to improve the state of health in Oregon for people who are struggling with drug addiction. And there were 2 bills passed, House Bill 4002 and 5204, which were called the Drug Intervention Plan. And this fortunately was a bipartisan measure. It gives law enforcement some additional tools in drug cases. These 2 bills were somewhat controversial in that there was a partial rollback or a fix to Measure 110. Established drug enforcement as a misdemeanor crime and possession of a controlled substance. But it encourages law enforcement agencies to refer or divert the person to a deflection program. It invested $85.4 million in expanding treatment services in Oregon with an emphasis on high priority regions and service level gaps, including the Multnomah County Sobering and Drop-Off Center. It also brings mental health provider training programs to Oregon colleges in an attempt to get more people in the field of addiction counseling. Good. Bruce?
Okay, so now we'll move into some pharmacy bills that were passed. I did want to say that there were 229 bills up for the legislature to work with, and because there's only two per legislator in the short session, and 115 of them got passed. So we'll be talking about the ones that got passed, not so much about the ones that didn't get passed, although we will mention that. So first of all was Senate Bill 1508, which put a cap on insulin. Cost of insulin was capped at $35 per month. So that's a big improvement for a lot of people.
Yay, wow.
House Bill 4149 was the PBM bill. PBM is Pharmacy Benefit Manager, which if you draw a diagram of how pharmaceuticals flow from the manufacturer to your hands, it would look like the electrical diagram for a supercomputer. So any headway that can be gained in managing PBMs is a good thing. So this bill 4149 attempts to control the abuses of PBMs. It requires licensing of PBMs and creates state oversight, audits, and investigation. The reporting requirements are to increase transparency. This bill got bipartisan support. It was, I think, headed out by Representative Nost, is that right? And that there'll be an additional work that'll go on with the PBM bill in the 2025 long session to make it even stronger and to regulate PBMs and promote drug pricing transparency and financial viability for pharmacies across the board.
I don't know. I remember now.
Okay, so as far as regulatory reform, the 4149 added strengthened licensure of PBMs and pharmacies, anti-discrimination issues, dealt with anti-retaliation issues, and a fair appeals process so that any willing pharmacy could be involved with this regulatory reform. And they did away with clawbacks and extra fees that are typically a part of what you pay for a pharmaceutical product these days. And House Bill 4113 was championed by Senator Gelser Blowens. Yes, indeed, Susan, yes. She carried this bill in the Senate. It requires all amounts of money paid for a drug, even if they are from charity or a rebate program, will be used toward calculating the out-of-pocket maximum for any individual patient.
Wow.
So a big step forward.
It's hard to believe sometimes what the pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies will do to us. When I first heard about this bill, I thought that is just ridiculous that they would not give someone credit towards their deductible if the pharmaceutical company was giving them a credit towards the price of the drug. But you might be hearing a little cheering. It's not for us, but there's a Celtic concert going on in the main sanctuary of the church, so perhaps you're hearing some of the music in the background too. The legislature also did a lot of work on the governor's priority with regard to housing. And there's a relationship between some of this work with what the CCOs got as a waiver under their Medicaid program. At any rate, House Bill 1530 was a companion piece to the housing bill that we'll talk about soon. And it included investments in recovery housing projects in Multnomah County. So the attempt here is to try to join together the work on drug policy, addiction services, and housing, so that we just don't have this recycling of people through horrible conditions in their life. Multnomah County is going to get $25 million for a sobering center, and the Cascades Age Project will get $4 million to purchase the Prism Health Building in Northwest Portland. And a group called 4D Recovery got $4 million to purchase a residential treatment facility to young persons struggling with addiction. Then there was a bipartisan housing stability and production package that was also designed to help stem the homelessness crisis. And cities of a population of more than 25,000 can expand their boundaries by 100 acres. This is kind of allowing additional annexation of land. And a $75 million revolving loan fund to make interest-free loans to local governments to help finance the production of affordable housing was created. And $131 million for emergency shelters and homelessness prevention services was created. So this is again bolstering that housing and homelessness area. Another action that occurred that I think has significance for a lot of people, this was promoted by Senator Patterson, who is the chair of the Senate Healthcare Committee. She worked with the Oregon Health Authority to implement a Medicaid code. And that's important because all billing and recovery of funds is done by the coding process the healthcare providers use. So that this new code allows for comprehensive cognitive assessments and care planning for people when they have early signs of dementia. I think that will be important for a lot of people, especially as our elderly population grows.
So we'll move into another area of mental health. So Senate Bill 1557, which ensures mental health access for youth. The chief sponsor of this bill was our Senator Gelser Blowen. And it creates a roadmap for OHA and DHS to access substantial federal dollars to provide kids with complex needs access to support at home and in the community as well. The cost is paid 70% by the federal government. It requires continuity of coordinated care for foster kids and those with drug, mental health, and intellectual difficulties. So that was a big win for mental health issues that have not been adequately addressed for years. Let's see, where we go next is House Bill 4136. Which speeds up the whole process for nurse licensing in the state. It also gives money to Lane County to pay for same-day healthcare to combat the effect of the Peace Health ER closure. So, you know, the old hospital in downtown Eugene got closed about 6 months or so ago. Governor Kotek went down there and showed some leadership in moving, trying to get some functioning out of these empty buildings, basically. So 41. As part of House Bill 4136, there was this amount of money that went to Lane County to help pay for same-day healthcare. So there's no overnighting in the old hospital downtown Eugene, but daytime it's open for access to medical services. House Bill 4081 modernizes EMS system, basically. EMS statewide has been troubled by slow response times and high cost for ambulance services. So House Bill 4081, the purpose of that is to address some of these problems in the statewide EMS service. Well, you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
The final bill that we talked about that did pass is HR 4024. And this was a bill that was championed by Representative Dan Rayfield for many years. This is a bill dealing with campaign finance reform. And if you've ever gone to one of his town halls, he always mentions the need for campaign finance reform. Oregon was one of only 5 states that didn't limit campaign spending, and one of 11 states with no limits on individual campaign contributions. So this was finally passed, and the limits that will be in place are based on the federal campaign finance limits. So we're taking a big step in the right direction there. So that's kind of a summary of the bills that passed in this session. And now we'll turn to what did not pass. Bruce?
Okay, so House Bill 4130, which is the CPOM bill, Corporate Practice of Medicine bill. It was sponsored by Rep. Bowman, passed in the House, but died in Senate Rules Committee. So this was a bill that, as it turns out, doing a little research on this. So the whole corporate practice of medicine ban actually started in the 1800s. And we're still dealing with it, right?
Wow.
And it's only gotten worse. And the reason it got started in the 1800s, because it was rooted in concerns about the commercialization of medicine and the tension between business interests and the ethical obligations of practicing medicine. So even then, back then, there was this concern for the obstacles that corporations present to practicing medical providers. And it stems from the prohibition of unlicensed practice of medicine. So even back in the 1800s, you had to have a license to practice medicine. So we're going to talk about a concept called moral injury. And this is a concept that has been more clearly defined within the last 2 or 3 years. And it's the result, the moral injury is the result of corporations basically, telling medical providers how to take care of patients. And when you're in that situation, like I've been in, it used to be called burnout. Physicians would get burned out. But there were several articles in medical journals, as well as medical journals, as well as in Washington Post and New York Times, talking about the loss of medical providers from the profession And the title of the Times article, it's not burnout. Because nurses, physicians, get trained in how to not get burned out. You know, we're go through pretty rigorous training that you have to fight your way through to make it to the end. And then you come out with this set of skills, and increasingly you're having to ask permission to do things for your patients. Things that you know are right for the patient, but the corporate structure wants to make money. And so as a result, medical providers, nurses, I asked Angel from NAACP about, well, do you see this in nurses? And she said, oh, yes, but definitely in nurses as well. So any rate, that's the whole focus on trying to rein in the power that corporations have in directing patient care, which is only, you know, becoming worse, basically. Okay, so that's, I did want to say one other thing about the PBMs. So the state actually has the state has a program where they manage a PBM for parts of the Medicaid population. And the PBM that they utilize is called Array RX. So in the state of Washington has all of their state workers, retirees on Array RX. So all of their medications are through this PBM. The great thing about the PBM is it, and Array RX also runs medicines for the state of Nevada and the state of Connecticut. So the great thing about PBMs is that when you are involved with a PBM, like a state-run or organized PBM, the kickbacks that normally go to the hospitals for pharmaceuticals, the kickbacks actually go to the patient picking up the medicine. And so the medicine is cost less. The, you know, insurance companies and the hospitals, their prices are higher because they keep the kickback, the PBM kickback. They just put it in their coffer and you pay more, basically.
Yeah.
So,
Pharmacy benefit manager. Oh, the same thing. Yeah.
So, any rate, hopefully we'll see more movement in that arena in 2025, looking to the future.
Just to continue with that theme, what's next for 2025 and what can we do? And a few things. One is through the Oregon Health Authority, there's a group called the Oregon Prescription Drug Affordability Board. They hold public meetings and take comments from the public. And they are running some forums online. They'll be Wednesday, May 8th from noon to 2 p.m. and Wednesday, May 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. And if you go to the Department of Financial Regulation website and search for the Oregon Prescription Drug Affordability Board, you will find the links to those public forums. So if you have concerns about the pricing of drugs and the actions of pharmacy benefit managers, this would be a great opportunity to do it. Make your feelings known. There are several live forums that they're going to hold, but they're in Portland, Bend, and 2 other locations in the state that are not close to us. So that's just to mention the online opportunity.
We should think about posting this on the website.
Yeah, yeah. Also, you've heard us mention our Senator Gelser Bluen and Representative Dan Rayfield. And you might want to send them an email and just thank them for the work that they did in this last session. Not only were there the bills that they were deeply involved in passed, but they supported all of this other legislation. And even though it's not the big solution that we're hoping for with universal health care, these are steps that will make healthcare better for many, many Oregonians. Another opportunity is to contact our federal representatives and give them your concerns about healthcare and what the states need to have in their toolbox to improve the situation. And if you follow our webpage, you'll see postings by Mike Huntington about a bill that's commonly known as SABUCA. It's a state-based universal health care bill. It's been introduced in the House by Representative Ro Khanna, has not been introduced in the Senate yet, trying to get that done. But this is a bill that would give the states a waiver so that the state can implement a universal health care plan and get federal money from Medicare and Medicaid, come directly to the state to fund the plan. And also, there's a big act called ERISA. That's the Employment, Retirement, and Income Security Act. And ERISA governs how health insurance is placed in the market and prohibits states from interfering with any federal rules on health insurance. And we could not require private insurers to be part of the state plan without getting out from under the ERISA requirements. So the SABUCA bill would be very important for all the states that want to implement universal health care and do so without spending years and years in litigation and perhaps unsuccessfully. So these are important things for us to try to advocate about as we move along the road in Oregon to what will hopefully be a universal healthcare plan. And the final thing is an invitation for you to join the legislative committee. Alex Polikoff is here tonight. He's my co-chair on the committee. Bruce is a member. And we have an active group. It's an interesting group. We're not intimidating. And we'd love to have more of you join us. We meet the second Friday of the month, and it's from 10:15 until noon at the Good Samaritan Episcopal Church. We meet in the lounge, so it's rather comfortable, and everyone is welcome and invited to come. So anything else?
And Susan is a member.
Yeah.
And Mike Huntington is a member. And Mark shows up at most meetings. And Carol is a member as well.
Yeah.
And Bobby Hull up there is a member too.
Out there in Zoom land.
Yeah.
I don't know who else. I couldn't see others coming on. So please feel free to come and join us. We'd love to have you. There's a lot of work to be done. We're trying to follow improvements to Array RX. We're trying to follow the Healthcare Market Oversight Committee and make improvements to that legislation, as well as the ordinary work of new bills that might come up in the legislature for the full session. So we could use more people. Thank you. So
Thank you.
anything more?
Well, I do have a story to tell.
Oh, boy.
Oh, good.
So this is about corporate practice of medicine and about moral injury. So just last month, I attended a physician meeting appointment with a family member down in Eugene. And before HICMO, the healthcare market oversight program was in place, Optum bought a Eugene OMG down in Lane County.
Say what OMG is.
Oregon Medical Group, Eugene Oregon Medical Group, which has, you know, had actually, in past tense, used to have upwards of 200 providers, medical providers in their group. So within the first year of Optum taking over that group, about a third of the medical providers left. Some retired out, but some left for other reasons, and I'm gonna tell you some of the other reasons. So in this appointment that my family member had, I was there with my family member to help remember everything that happened in the meeting. The provider came in and just by way of introduction, I asked them, the provider, how long they had been with Oregon Medical Group, and they said 7 years. 5 years with Oregon Medical Group and 2 years with Optum. And I said to them, well, congratulations on surviving such a turbulent, you know, transformation from OMG to Optum. You know, I meant it as a compliment. The provider said, well, congratulations aside, I feel like a zombie.
Wow.
This is moral injury.
And that wasn't somebody who worked there, that was a patient.
No, that was the specialist that my family member was seeing.
Oh, so it was the worker.
Yes, right, yeah. So just to underscore and highlight what moral injury is.
And we may want to be somewhat sensitive in our community. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think it may have come from you, Bruce. I saw an email that doctors in Corvallis Clinic have been told not to make afternoon appointments, that they will be spending 3 months every afternoon studying the information and billing system.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't true. I would be surprised if that wasn't true.
Yeah.
I guess I should say,
Yeah,
because that's what my family member experienced in Lane County when Optum took over Eugene OMG, was that, yeah, and I wrote this in a letter to HICMO, that there's something special about their IT service that I'm still trying to understand, that requires that certainly protocols be followed. And I wouldn't be surprised if Optum at the Corvallis Clinic does a similar kind of program where you can't get in to see a provider for 3 or 4 months because everybody from the billing staff, the nursing staff, the medical provider staff are learning how to use this IT system. And you had an experience where
I have already had the experience, yes, where I called for an appointment and I was told the provider was booked 8 months out and they didn't even have a schedule beyond that. So I would have to wait for a phone call to get in, and they'll call me in a few months to schedule. Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit of a stunner.
Mike?
Yeah, just think about the legislative session. When I go there, sometimes I'm feeling a little cynical because everybody wearing a suit looks like an enemy. And yet, I know Bruce knows this, and many of you know people on Medicaid who are getting good service. And that came because of good things that happened in the legislative environment. So I do
Absolutely.
my best to erase that cynicism. Because you know, a lot of it does go on. Suits come into our senators and our representative offices as they did against 4130. And you start to feel like we don't have control. Or you see what Optum did and we think we don't have control, but we do. And all I have to think of is Betty Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
And she was the opposite of a suit. And she made a difference. And so is Sarah, and so is Dan Rachel. So that's one thing I want to, give us hope, is that it does make a difference what we do, what we say, and who we contact, and the fact that we meet and talk about it. The other thing I want to mention about learning what's happened with Optum and other centers is non-disclosure agreements. When you sign with a company, and it's not just Optum, but maybe you sign on with Samaritan, often you sign an agreement, you will not say anything that could be interpreted as criticism of your employer. So we have very little way of assessing what happened both in Eugene and before that in Portland when Optum came in. We just have little hints. But we should have legislation that makes sure the public knows what happens. That's one of our roles as legislative committee. The other thing I'd like to think about is how the Chinese proverb that crisis is opportunity. And here's a crisis that we should not waste. And how do we do it without offending our friends in the clinic? Expressing support and maybe gaining their support for universal healthcare system. When I talked with a surgeon who was in the middle of this threat of thinking he was gonna lose his job, his health insurance, his daughter needed a liver transplant, and he'd have to take call every third night in South Dakota. That was what he thought he was facing. And no wonder they chose to grab this, supposed rescuer. But we need to keep in contact with those people. And what he did say, he saw my little video, which is the stick diagram of the person getting healthcare. He said, if you can just get us through this, I'd be willing to help you with that.
Cool.
So instead of street demonstrations like I was most motivated to do against the clinic or Optum or medical industrial complex, we have to find out where we match with their interests and enlist their help. Because I don't think they want to go through this anymore. I'm worried about our hospital going through something like this. And how are we gonna know that they're in deep trouble unless we know the board of directors, we're talking with them, and we give them options well before they made a crisis like the Corvallis Clinic did.
Yeah,
So,
so, okay,
Questions?
go ahead.
No,
We're
I'd
gonna
rather-
go to questions and I'll try to see the folks online, but we've got a couple in the room. Go ahead.
so I have been just playing with the idea of asking my doctor, it's an eye doctor that I go to, it's not my regular doctor, it's an eye doctor, and I'm still afraid that they're gonna tell me I have to change my Medicaid or care plan, and then I have to get a different backup plan, that I have to get their backup. And I don't wanna do either one of those, so I'm not signing anything if I can get away with it. But I called them and I know I just got a person on the phone that was, just whoever was supposed to answer the phone. And I said, I would like to get a referral from my doctor before all of this comes down with the corporate stuff. I'd like to get a referral from my doctor for an outside ophthalmologist. And she was, I think she was willing to give that to me. And I'm still toying with whether I should go to a different clinic. But she said, oh, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine. And I thought, she does not know. Isn't it true that they're not being told that many of the doctors are gonna be under great stress? Many of them will likely quit in the future with all that stress. And I somehow want to tell them that I kind of know what they're under, and I know, as it goes along and then as the stress shows up and as they have to start doing all this stuff and they're finding out how bad it is, I want to be able to talk with them in a supportive way not criticizing at all, but saying, I like you as a doctor, and that's what I said on the phone to the person on the phone. I really like my ophthalmologist. I do not want to quit. But she's already, even up to this point, before the takeover, she is so focused and so busy. I never say a word to her because she is looking at the records and this is ophthalmology that's kind of complicated with my eyes. She is just double checking. She's so good, but I never say a word. Now here I am and I want to say a lot of words. So I don't even know whether it's appropriate, and I don't even know if it's whether it's appropriate to ask her for a referral. When I kind of plan on having it in my back pocket. Is that something you shouldn't do? Because I'm afraid she's gonna quit. And they said, oh, she's not gonna quit. She's not. They don't have an idea of who's gonna quit and who's gonna go, through this kind of hell.
I'd love for there to be an answer to your question, and I don't know that any one of us can give that answer. What I am personally doing is anytime I do actually get to see a doctor, I am thanking them for staying on the job. I now know a few doctors who have simply said, I can't take it anymore, I'm done.
Yeah.
And the moral injury issue, I just can't deal with this. And I think feeding off of what Mike was saying, we have to somehow get to the doctors and actually let them know that we're glad they're still there, the ones that are staying. Yeah. Alex, you had something.
Oh, I just wanted to follow up on the important, what Mike said, just incidentally, that non-compete thing he was talking about, that legislation that Bruce mentioned, 4130, that would ban his non-compete clauses. That one did not pass, but I do want to mention one hopeful thing. That legislation passed the House 42-12.
Yes.
So it's very important to understand that there's bipartisan support for this legislation. And in the pharmacy benefit manager bill, 4149 passed 55-1. Nothing passes unanimously anymore. I mean, that is remarkable.
Wow.
So that's in the House. In the Senate, it passed 23-3, which is almost, it's kind of unheard of ratios. So, I mean, I don't want to give everybody a whole huge sense, well, now everything's completely turning around, but to me, that's indicative, like especially having to do with prescription drugs, that's universally acknowledged as a problem. You get complete unanimous support of something like that, so. And I also, just one last thing, I watched the healthcare committee meetings, and the Republican in the Senate healthcare, that was the House Healthcare. In the House Healthcare Committee, he voted against an amendment to that bill. He actually voted against the bill because he didn't think it was strong enough.
Wow.
And to me, that is like really something. You have, not getting into the partisanship, but typically it's on the Democrat side of the aisle pushing these more progressive policies. And to me, that was remarkable. The Republican was voting against what the Democrats were voting for because he didn't think it was strong enough against the pharmacy benefit managers. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Yeah, there really are some reasons to be very hopeful. We had wins and losses in these last two sessions. But there was a time when we didn't have any wins. Now we've got some. And these votes, I watched that 42-12 vote. And I was amazed by the speeches. They were fantastic. And the rationale for why they were going to vote. And I was surprised then. I didn't even watch the Senate. That was the House. I didn't watch the Senate. And what happened with that bill. But does any of you, the three of you, have some insight why it passed so easily in the House and then the Senate just kind of deferred it? They never took a vote.
The corporate practice.
Yeah.
Medicine.
Yes, corporate practice.
Well, yeah, there were one thing that I did hear was that they didn't want to leave the session with bad taste in their mouth, so they just agreed to table it till next session.
Huh.
They didn't want to walk out, they didn't want to do a walkout, you know, they felt they had
Oh.
accomplished a lot. And they didn't want to tarnish that with, you know, a fight.
Was a difficult issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, also Senator Patterson has indicated that this bill will come back in the next session.
Yay.
Question about it, and it will be a stronger bill than the one that was introduced in the short session. So I think those are very good things to keep in mind. So I know the legislative committee will be following this and, you know, we'll be letting you know as soon as we know what the new bill looks like. I think September 27th is the date that legislators have to give their legislative concepts to legislative council for drafting. So it'll be sometime in the fall that we'll see some new language.
Yeah, but that also is very encouraging that they not only intend to come back with this bill, but they intend to come back with a better bill.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the problems with the bill as it was that there was a 7-year ramp up to get to the end point. And Senator Patterson says that's ridiculous.
And she's not wrong.
But what, the good thing is, one thing that Rep. Bowman took out of that bill was kind of the transparency piece. Because there was a financial component of it and it would have been held up in Ways and Means.
Mm.
So in the next session, I'm sure, he actually told me that transparency piece will be back in there. So it will be a stronger bill.
Yay.
When it shows up again.
All right.
Oh,
Arkansas
Kathy has-
Kathy's got it.
Kathy online, yes.
Hi there. I just wanted to mention, back when Mike was speaking a little bit ago and feeling cynical sometimes, I wanted to thank Mike and Bruce for writing their As I See It column that appeared in the GT this week. I thought it was a really good timeline of what's gone on with the whole Corvallis Clinic situation, because I still hear of people going, "Hey, I heard something's going on." It's like, yes. So that, I think that was helpful to inform people. And also something else, then I think the fact that Mid Valley has cultivated a good relationship with the man who's the current CEO of the hospital, and I'm sorry, his name escapes me right now. I
Doug
think,
Boyce.
yes, thank you. I think we should do all we can to maintain that good relationship and tell them we want to see you succeed for everyone's benefit, you know, so we can avoid something like this happening to another organization in town.
I agree.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kathy.
yeah, that's great. Other questions or comments from folks online?
I'll pipe up. Jenny Olson did put a note in there. Send a card to your provider that you appreciate their care. That
Yeah,
goes a long ways.
absolutely right. Yes, Mike.
I just wanted to follow up on Karen's comment about the state-based universal health care bill that was introduced by Ro Khanna last November. There's a senator now introducing, you were hinting at it, Ed Markey of Massachusetts, who is planning to introduce it. And it's gonna be exactly the same bill. And so, a petition is going out nationwide this week, the next few weeks, encouraging people to sign it. You may get it in your inbox. If you wish, please sign it to support, this bill.
Okay. So we may get a little interference. The concert is at intermission. And folks are wandering around and maybe even coming into our room. So we may get a little disturbance here. Anything else from folks online?
I don't see any other hands or any comments in the chat.
Thank you, Chris.
Hi, Flex.
Any last questions for Bruce and Karen before we move on with our agenda? Do either of you or Alex want to summarize anything in any way?
I have one. I did see my former daughter Olsen at the good game. And she just come was good, no offense. But she was the doctor I had in Albany. And
Oh, yeah.
she is amazing doctor.
She's online and she's hearing you.
Oh, great.
Compliments are always welcome.
But I'll be with it better than your Congress first.
Okay. Well, thank you both very, very much. That was really a good wrap. Oh, I do have one more question. You mentioned right at the beginning, there was a bill about creating more drug and alcohol therapists. Is there, can you say just a little more about how exactly do they plan to do that?
Well, by having programs, training programs in Oregon colleges
Okay,
that do not currently have it. No, obviously, that's not something that's going to provide more therapists in the pipeline anytime soon.
right.
So it's a longer term approach.
Yeah, I was thinking it takes several years to
Yes.
become a therapist, so.
And several years to get the programs in place to train those additional
Yeah, to
therapists.
train them, right?
Not gonna be a quick thing, but it's good that there's some affirmative steps being taken
Yeah,
to try to increase what we all recognize as a dire shortage of
right.
trained people.
Yeah, as somebody, a community college counselor and trying to get students with drug addiction into programs. It's sometimes very difficult. There is a true shortage. Yeah.
I think Bobby has her hand up.
Oh,
Yep. I just
Uh,
wanted to say thank you for doing this program because one of the things that I noticed in reading about what happened was that this was a very unusual session. Usually the short session just goes over the last things, but this one really did a lot. And I heard that, I think it was from the House member who leads the committee on health. And what is his name? I can't think of it right now.
Rob
Who knows?
Knows? Rob knows?
What?
Was it
Yes,
Rob?
Rob knows. Rob knows made it very, very clear that he thought it was most unusual and I guess he welcomed it. But yeah, he had a lot to report. Thank you for reporting on what happened because it was an unusual session. It really was. And we need more of them, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Mike pointed out to me that we never did introductions and we have
I
a
was
couple.
gonna say that.
Couple of new folks in the room, but and I think mostly veterans online, but why don't we do some introductions online and then we'll do the folks in the room. So if you don't mind just jumping in and telling us your name and maybe if you can, what your role with Mid-Valley has been.
My name's Kathy Sword and I help with finance for Mid-Valley.
And helps keep us legal.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about her partner there, Karen?
Karen Nellis, I'm the treasurer for Mid-Valley Healthcare.
Yeah. And an excellent person with the details of all of the finances. We really appreciate her work.
Yeah, I'm a very detail-oriented person.
And thank God for that.
Yes, she
Uh,
does. I know that today because she asked me to check in with the people who are renting in June for our June meeting are renting us space for our picnic, and I'm already looking forward to it. So I'm Bobby Hall, and I've been with Mid-Valley for, well, since about 2004. And I've been various officers, and now I'm happy on the health committee. And I help a little bit, just a teeny little bit on the I think on the outreach committee.
Okay, thank you. Speaking about Rich, how about Fritz?
Fritz Stevens, Tiley co-chair with Holly Ben Dixon, Outreach and Communications. I'll have all sorts of stuff to share when it comes around to my time later.
Okay. Let's see, and Carol?
You're muted.
Are you talking Carolyn Hines?
I was actually talking about Carol Gold, but I'll take either.
Well, I'm Carolyn Hines and I help out with the outreach committee and some of the tabling at the farmer's market.
Okay. Now Carol Gold.
Okay, I'm Carol Gold and my husband Dick Gold. We've been with Mid-Valley Healthcare for at least 11 years because that's when we moved here 11 years ago. And we have been involved with the outreach, and I'm on the board right now. And I think this is an incredible organization, and I thank everyone for all the work that they do on this. You're all wonderful.
Okay. John Rickert?
Yeah, hi. I'm new to this whole thing. I'm really a member of HCAO, and I think I'm also a member of this. At least I contributed to you. And I'm basically here because of Mike Huntington. I met him a few other meetings, and he said, you got to come over and see what we do. And I'm here, and I enjoy every bit of it. Thank you.
Okay.
Susan Nielsen, please.
And who's
Linda.
Linda?
Hi, I'm Linda Sebring, and I'm here for the first time. I have I've known about this. An acquaintance of mine, Stan, told me about this, and I got on the mailing list. And I'm currently a volunteer with Be a Hero, which is a nationwide organization that is advocating for reform of Medicare Advantage and Medicare, and holding the insurance companies accountable for their abuses of Medicare Advantage and Medicare, and urging President Biden to strengthen Medicare. And I see this as a step towards a better system.
Thank you.
So I think
well,
I've heard about your efforts for years and years, and I think you're a wonderful organization. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate your work. How about Jennifer? Maybe not. Okay.
Yes, you just unmuted.
Oh, okay. Jennifer?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm home with a bad cold. Today's the first day in a few days I've even been able to talk. I lost my voice. So I will not be turning the camera on, but hello, I'm Jennifer Nitzen. And I work for Samaritan Health Services. And starting around 2008, I started coming to the Mid-Valley Healthcare Advocates meetings from time to time, and just started up again recently.
Well, we're glad you're back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shelley, would you like to say hi?
I can unmute and yeah, hi, I'm Shelley Reese. I've been a member of Mid-Valley since 2005 when I moved here, and I've had various positions, done a lot of tabling and been a member of outreach, and I'm an emergency RN and still feel we need to go a long way to get healthcare for everyone, but we're making progress, and it's due to us. Yes, I'm very grateful for us. Thanks.
Jenny? Jenny, you're on mute. Would you? like to
Okay.
say-
Sorry, I'm actually doing paperwork. This is part of the burnout. I'm a family doc. And I've been very interested in healthcare for all since I've been in medicine for the last 25 years and have been involved with the group for about a year and a half.
Wow.
I love
And-
you, Jenny.
And thank you so much for keeping on the job.
Yeah,
We really appreciate your work.
I'm very grateful to be your patient.
Finally, Louise Farrell.
I'm sitting here with a cold pack on my knee with bursitis, enjoying the fact that electronics allows me to listen in while I'm at home.
Okay. Louise normally is our, the person who lets us into this building and lets us in and lets us out. She's sort of our guardian angel on these nights.
And her
typically.
son came over and helped set up tonight. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Yes, and Steve, her son, came and took her place tonight. Okay, in the room, quickly, because we have some reports to do, but,
Oh, boy. I'm Susan. I don't know how long I've been on you guys, but I'm on the legislative committee and outreach. Coming back to outreach after June. Because of the fact the very reason I was on the women voters board as well.
okay.
Alex Polikoff, co-chair of the legislative committee, was recruited by Betty Johnson when I ran for Congress in 2008. And she came up and told me I had to join Mid-Val. So.
She did this today to me too.
I'm Angelica Ray Kugler, guest.
Okay, and thank you for being here.
I'm Karen Josephson, and now and then a guest dropping in and out over the years, and just appreciate completely what everybody has done for so many decades, really. So I just admire every single one of you.
Thank you, Karen.
Karen Christensen, and I'm co-chair of legislative committee with Alex.
Bruce Thompson, back with the group after 2 long years of COVID.
Yeah.
Caroline Choquette, I've been following you all, I'm on your mailing list for a long, long time.
For a long, long time.
And, totally support the cause and just decided you don't want to find out. You want to come see you guys.
Repeat that.
Caroline Choquette,
Caroline
spell?
Choquette.
French Canadian,
Okay.
long way back.
I'm Pat Wickman, and I've been in and out of the group since the very beginning with Betty. I can remember us meeting here at the very beginning, and just life happens sometimes and other things step in, and I had a period of bad health, and now I don't have bad health now.
Oh, we're so glad. Okay.
And, I'm just back in, and I was a very close friend of dear Edie, and we shared, but we went to different conferences and things and were always roommates, and she was a very special person.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
Edie also introduced me to Betty, and I met her at Good Sam. She was on vestry, just finishing a term when I was starting. And she was very dedicated to having our church vote that healthcare was a human right. And because of that, we have our meetings at Good Sam because it's considered a mission of our church.
And you're
Wow.
Carol?
That's because of Edie Orner. My name's Carol Sharper.
Sure. Thank you.
No, I'm Mike Pennington. I'm a retired radiation oncologist and vice chair of Mid-Valley.
Mark Weiss, another recruit, both Betty Johnson. I imagine about 2/3 of us here are. And retired counselor from LBCC. And with that, let's go to some committee reports.
Okay.
Fritz, I heard you say you had a few things. Why don't you clue us in just a little?
You betcha. So I heard someone kind of bring up the fact that we are working with HCAO for their annual meeting this summer. Going to be down here in Corvallis. Location, it's going to be June 8th. It'll be kind of a during the day, so it's a Saturday, like 9 to 4 or something like that during the day event. The site is still kind of to be determined. I was told we have a reservation on a place, but we may not stick with that place. Mark and Mike, joined by myself and Simon, have been meeting with folks from HCAO for the planning process. And we've got some bi-weekly meetings. I think our next one is next week, not this week. Let's see. So that's what's going on. We will be more than likely, as we get closer to the event, be seeing if there are any of the advocates out there who are willing to come and kind of help out, whether it's, manning a sign-in table and giving people direction as to where to go, those kinds of things. So if you're willing to help out with that, that would be wonderful. But watch for email notification on that in the future, not too distant future. We, since our last monthly meeting, as Carolyn Hines had mentioned, in some of the tabling, Carolyn, Mike, and I tabled at the Corvallis Sustainability Fair on March 7th. It's a great event, really good event for us to have conversations with lots of good people. I know we got a number of people signed up that day. And so our list of advocates and our email list specifically continues to grow, which is a good thing. We've been doing some work on kind of shoring up the newsletter and how to make sure we're gathering all the appropriate updates that need to go out to the advocates group. Greg has been doing a really good job of kind of filling in and taking the reins on it. Simon's been working with him really well to make sure that we're, pulling and configuring articles. We do have a process in place for individuals. If you're interested in having an article, reach out to someone on the board, and we can certainly get it through the vetting process. Of course, Simon is a big part of communications and outreach, especially when it comes to digital media. One of the things, if you recall, in earlier February, we did do a tabling at the OSU Nonprofit Fair. We did get a number of OSU students that had signed up at that fair. Simon did attempt to put on a Discord kind of training for new volunteers. Unfortunately, we didn't have any students show up, more than likely because they were closing in on the end of their school term, but we're staying in contact with them. There are a couple of other students that are looking to get involved. One of them, Luke, and I can't remember his last name. Actually, he's a pre-med student, and he's volunteered to be a blog post writer for us, which is really cool. So he's going to be working with Simon on that. We're starting up some of our targeted ads on the different meta platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. The other thing that came up in the last outreach committee meeting was the desire to restart kind of a welcome process for new members. I was told that, and I never had the pleasure of meeting Betty Johnson, but I was told that was something that she would do. New people that would throw their name in the ring. She would meet them for coffee, talk to them about what the advocacy is all about, and ask them what they can do to help out. So that's something that's really good. The other thing that is coming out of, and I'm getting some feedback from some of the board members, we had some issues with some information, and it was actually erroneous information that had been sent out to the advocates email group. So I was tasked with the job of developing a kind of overarching communications policy for the organization, with the main mission of making sure that anything that goes out to the advocates, and especially anything that goes out under the name of Mid-Valley, is timely, factual, and accurate. I want to make sure that all of that type of stuff is vetted and disseminated according to any policy that we as an organization choose to put into place. So I'm still looking for some feedback from other board members. I know I've gotten some from some folks, and we want to get that solidified as soon as it is. That will be sent out to the advocates as a whole and of course established as a policy for Mid-Valley going forward. I think that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions?
Coming back after June.
Okay.
Pardon?
I'm coming back after June.
Yeah.
Oh, you're coming back to outreach. Good. We'll look forward to having you, Susan.
Yeah, Fritz, I just wanted to show some of, Facebook, just see some of the work that you and Simon have been doing. You can't see it, but we have it on the screen and I'll show it. Can you see it now?
Yep.
So I'll get some of this other stuff out of the way. But Simon is right on top of everything. You know, I just announced that, there's a Senator Markey has agreed to introduce the SAVUCA, the state-based universal healthcare bill in the Senate. Simon already has that up. And he got this announcement on for tonight. He is on top of things. And then we had a good meeting, the other night with, actually it was Saturday. It was a, intergenerational justice summit. And you may know Representative Debbie Dingle, who's a co-sponsor of the Medicare for All bill. So, what we hope everybody does is go to our website and look at the Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok. I don't know if we have access for TikTok yet, but Simon just produced a TikTok, a 1-minute TikTok featuring me and him. And I just hope everybody looks at it. My daughter in Denver was just scrolling and found it, and my niece in Portland scrolling and finding it. So we're hoping to communicate with techniques like TikTok as long as we allow it in our country.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Karen, would you like to give us a few, I'm sorry, actually, we're on committees. Kathy Soward, would you like to give us a word or two on finance?
Sure. We are currently working on a spring fundraising letter, which will come out the last week of April. And that's there's like 3 big things we do during the year, a couple of fundraising letters. We sort of guide and summarize budgeting, and we develop and kind of review policies. And I was thinking, we can always use more help, and you don't really need special training because in your everyday life, you do all these 3 things. You budget, you develop policies for how you're going to run your household or your business or your life, and you figure out where your money's coming from. So you already have these skills. If you would like to join us sometime, we meet the first Tuesday of each month via Zoom so far at 9:30 in the morning. And we have a really fine group of people with a variety of interests, a small but fine group of people. So we could always use more help. So if you want to get a hold of me, I would love to talk to you.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to Karen, our treasurer. Do you have anything you want to report in, Karen?
Yeah, February, we had $496 income and a balance of $16,000. And in March, we have another 500 coming in from one donor. And like Kathy said, we're going to do a fundraiser, so we should have some more income coming in the next couple months.
All right, thank you. Let's see here. Sandy isn't with us, but Mike, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Just that the tabling season is arriving next month, and we do make a lot of contact at the farmers market. So when we call you, please say yes. It's fun. I can't tell you how much fun it is to talk with people and get their stories. Sometimes they'll agree to be videoed on their story, and then we add them to our overwhelming evidence of why we need a better healthcare system. The other thing we do is we're tabling right next to, the political, organizations, and we get to know them. It's helped in one way, both the council, the city council, and I think the commissioners are now considering a resolution to endorse this, state-based universal healthcare bill. And it's partly because we get to know them in these settings, when we table, so please say yes when we call.
Okay. Let's see, I'll keep my comments brief. Yeah, I was impressed at the city council meeting. I had no idea what to expect. Mike was presenting and we got a good reception there. And that was very encouraging. It was almost as good as watching the legislature vote, or the House of Representatives vote 42-12 about the bill. And I think there's been several very encouraging things. I wanted to mention it, most of what I wanted to say has already been said by others, but this organization basically works or doesn't work based on the committees. This is a committee-oriented group. We do have a board of directors, but this is not a top-down kind of organization. It's really from the bottom up that we function well, and our committees are our strength. We have about 10 solid members on the legislative committee and could use a little more. We only have about 4 members on the finance committee. And as Kathy said, you don't have to be a finance whiz to join. We already have finance whizzes on that committee. What they need is help with some legwork and emailing kind of legwork. And they're a very fun group. Same with outreach and communications. They have 5 or 6 solid members. Really could use a few more to help get some things done. And then a big plug for, please put on your calendar June 8th. HCAO is coming here to have their annual conference. This is our primary partner in making things happen around the state. It's a tremendous opportunity to build relationships with them. And we're going to need people to get some things done. I would love to hear from you. Fritz would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
If you are interested, contact either one of us. We will be meeting with HCAO, Healthcare for All Oregon, for those, I'm sorry for using letters. But we are an affiliate of HCAO, and this is a big opportunity for us, and a big opportunity for us to make some inroads in our own community and maybe draw in some folks that have not been active before.